created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
Today is a very good day because in today's program, our series Parlons today we are talking about one, if not, I would say, with the purpose of a good sense of humor only for that. No offense to anyone, but I would like to say that today we're talking about maybe the Frenchiest, if you allow me to use the expression. If we will talking about the Frenchest opera by an Italian composer. Of course, we are talking about La Fille du Régiment. If you are already familiar with the plot of this opera, then you already know why I say that this is too Frenchy. Of course, I would like to take to send my best regards to people in France, to all people, to all Frenchies, our warmest regards here from Mexico. And of course, now that we're about to start talking about La Fille du Régiment, before we start on the subject of the plot, I would like to ask you if you feel like sending a note to the program, to the attention of me, to the attention of Katia. We would really appreciate that. If you would like to send us an email, you can do that at operawillofsinging@gmail.com. operawillofsinging@gmail.com. We would like to hear from you. Where are you listening to us from? Tell us, share with us your experiences with music. What is it that you like about opera, or anything else that you would like to share with us from your country, provided that as of now there are more than 50 countries listening to our program. I would really like to learn from your country if you are willing to share. Okay, then let's start talking about today's subject. So, Gaetano Donizetti is one of the most prolific opera composers. Maybe you are already aware of that. But as you may be aware also, as in the case of Rossini, prolific means that sometimes they copied. It is sometimes called plagiarism, that they used to take excerpts, or as in the case of Rossini, take complete overtures for use in another opera. So that's what happens when there are geniuses who compose so rapidly, and there are certain particularities around these composers who wrote so fast. One of them is that, of course, you can say, well, that maybe their librettos, the music composed is not 100% original, as I was telling you. Maybe there are some motifs or things that sound alike, not completely new. They may have very, if you allow me an expression, predictable formulas on how they are going to build the plot, and how they are going to put together the solos, the duets, the trios, and then the concertante for the final part of each of the acts. Also, the type of voices they would be using, they usually have the same type of soprano, either leggera or leggera with coloratura. The same type, usually the same type of tenor, usually same type of mezzo. So somehow these geniuses, when they composed so fast, could at some point become predictable. And now going back, more specific, leaving for a few minutes Maestro Gaetano Donizetti and going back to La Fille du Régiment, this is going to be another case where we have shared in the past. It was the same case for L'Elisir d'Amore. This is not an opera on which a singer, a tenor, or the tenor might be the exception. I will tell you why. But at least for the soprano, you cannot really build a career on roles like the one of Marie here in La Fille du Régiment. I am not saying that it is easy to sing, but it is very difficult that based on this type of repertory, you could have, we have had the greatest Marie of all times. No soprano is known for having been the greatest Marie of all time. Opposite to when you say Birgit Nilsson, one of the greatest Turandots, or when you say Renata Teballi, one of the greatest Toscas ever, and such and such and such. So there are roles where you can actually build a career and be remembered for the years to come. That is unfortunately not the case for Marie. Also, it is necessary to mention that even though none of the singers, except for Tonio, can be remembered for having sung these roles, we also need to insist that provided that since it is an opera that is written mainly for entertaining people with a good sense of entertaining, this is an opera comique, and opera comique means we will have lots of fun. And to be able to bring the public to laughter, it is very difficult. If you already know opera singers, if you're an opera singer yourself, you know that opera singers are very square people. They are usually very serious. They like to be also very conservative in their expressions, in their movements, in their gestures, mainly because the world of opera that's what it is. There is an elitism around the world of opera, which, by the way, is one of the reasons the opera is not as important as it was in the 1800s and the early 1900s. Now, to be sincere, the opera, I know there are many efforts around the world, many opera houses doing efforts in capturing more young people to keep this art alive. But the truth is that the opera has been losing listeners for the past 5 decades. We could have a complete conversation around that. That is not today's topic, but going back to our main topic, even though you cannot build your career as a singer in roles such as Marie, what you certainly need is an excellent actor or actress. There is no way you can get away with La Fille du Régiment unless you can truly perform as an actor. Why? We are about to see why. And as usual, it takes me around 10 minutes for the introduction, which is way too much. But before I move on with the plot, now I promise I am really moving to the plot. We also need to talk a little about the tesituras in here. Truth is, we are paying attention only to the main tesituras of this opera today, and for that purpose we have Tonio, Tonio, the tenor. Here we will give you more details once we reach his aria, but we also have Marie. Marie is usually light soprano, usually a soprano leggero with coloratura, because you are about to see, of course, I will not be singing or providing examples. Of course, I cannot do any of that. But Marie is the center. She is La Fille du Régiment, the daughter of the full regimiento. Of course, that's what it actually means. The daughter of the regiment. Marie needs to be cheerful, bright. All the time is not only her voice, but her personality that is bringing life to us. This is such a charming role that it is so difficult to keep that level of attention for the whole opera. That's what makes it so challenging, and this is provided that the orchestration is not heavy. This orchestration by Donizetti is, let's say, somehow light. It is not made for huge voices, so soprano leggera or coloratura can get away with, at least vocally. The interpretation, the acting part is another complication. Okay, so now the truth is that the plot is very simple. There is not much to say around the plot. Marie happens to be living with a regiment. She has been raised by that regiment. Of course, we are talking about a group of soldiers. And in that group of soldiers, as one can easily Imagine, of course, she has not had the best education ever. She's among a good number of men, all of them are soldiers, so she will not grow to be a delicate woman. But she has been, all men in the regiment take care of her, so Marie may not have known her father and her mother, but Marie has so many fathers. All of them care about their dear Marie. So that is for the case of Marie. So once we know about Marie, we get to know her through her. I'm not really willing to call this aria. This is more like a cavatina, more like an arietta. They are in fact called in the score the couplet. The music will pretend to be somehow military, at least in the way of the sounds of the orchestra, and the need for Marie to be a soprano coloratura or a leggera is because she will have plenty of ornaments, ascending scales, descending scales, trills, and anything that can be an ornament will be provided to Marie, who I was telling you needs to be very funny herself. So first time we hear from her is with the aria, with the couplet, chacun le sait, chacun le dit. Chacun le sait, chacun le dit is usually translated as everybody knows it, everybody says it. And I will just give you an idea of the melody. Of course, you need to hear it from a great soprano. And it goes like chacun le sait, chacun le dit, le régiment par l'excellence, le seul à qui l'on fasse crédit. Ta 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 ta. So you see, these very simple melodies, ta 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 ta, is one of the reasons people who love music see this composition by Maestro Donizetti as a second-class composition. They say, how can you even compare Lucia di Lammermoor, one of the greatest operas written for a soprano? How can you compare that to the very simplistic melodies of ta ta da da ta ta da da? And that is, of course, if you deeply study music, if you know music theory very well, you know that certainly they are right. The musical quality, the quality of the composition is not the greatest by Donizetti. In fact, Donizetti has never been known for being I didn't want to say advanced, but let's say a very academic composer. Same thing is said about Verdi, but putting aside that quality in the use of the music theory, it is true that the melody is sticky. Ta ta da da ta ta da da ta da 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 ta da 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 tan ta da 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 da. Dun da 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 da. And then the choir would also follow the same da 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 da. So when the two voices are united together in the same lovely melody, so vive, vive. Of course, this song, this couplet de chacun le sait, chacun le dit, everybody knows it. This is the melody that identifies le 21e, the 21st Regiment. That's who this melody is dedicated for. So try to picture in yourself a very funny, and I think that Nathalie Dessay, if you're aware of Nathalie Dessay, the French coloratura soprano, if you have seen recordings or if you have listened to recordings of hers, of course, she being French, it's easier for her to understand where the accentuation needs to be, how to emphasize the phrase so that it is actually believable. That could be as for the singing and the help that she's French. But also, if you see her on stage, you really know that she's enjoying the play. And that I think that for operas like this is what it counts. Ta-da-dun, 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 dun, dun. So one doesn't need to be an opera singer to enjoy the dun, ta-da-dun, ta-da-dun, dun, 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 ta-da-dun, ta-da-dun, dun, dun. And that's what Marie has given us in the first place. But let's keep on moving because now we need to talk about Tonio. Tonio is the young man who has fallen in love for Marie. And he rescued her in the past, and so she feels so thankful towards him that and attracted to this young man that then we have a duet of love. Of course, it is a duet in the way our dear maestro Donizetti would write it. I would like to mention at this point that being a duet, it is very important. Again, I say it very often in these programs that when two voices sing together, the two of them need to understand. If one of the voices is higher in volume, the other singer needs to make an effort. The singer who has the louder voice needs to make an effort to sound similar to his partner on stage. If one of them has the brightest notes or longest breath, you don't need to show off that you are better than your partner. For that, you can have your solo aria. But when you're singing a duet, it really makes sense that the two of them work together, making a nice piece of art. And I would like to set the example of, because I really like it personally, you have heard me in the past that I am not so much of a follower of Luciano Pavarotti and John Sutherland. I am not really a fan of them. Of course, I acknowledge the very nice things that they recorded and that this is the case for this duet. If you are lucky enough to listen to the recording of this duet by Luciano Pavarotti and John Sutherland, from my perspective, this is the best recording ever. It is no secret that John Sutherland and Pavarotti recorded a good number of times together, that they sang on live concerts together. And one can see it because you see that Luciano understands John and John understands Luciano. And this duet is usually played not complete. As usual, there are some cuts, unfortunately. And I also recall that Dame John Sutherland added a couple of ornaments that are not actually written. So once you hear John's ornaments and you then listen to another version by another singer, then you feel like something is missing. So Marie would ask, Quoi que vous m'aimez? Antonio would reply, Si je vous aime, écoutez, écoutez, je vous I would like to say that this opera, written for light voices, of course, heavier voices make it sound more dramatic than it should actually be. So try to picture this melody with lighter voices, nice, lighter, younger voices. And I was telling you that after Marie said, What? You love me? And Tonio replied, Yes, I love you. Listen and judge it by yourself. And Marie would say, Okay, let's listen, and let's judge. Écoutons, écoutons, et jugeons. And then Marie could listen to Tonio explaining how he feels about her, how he dreams of her. And so the part of Tonio could be like, depuis l'instant où dans mes bras, j'ai vu récit toute tremblante votre image douce charmante, nuit et jour s'attachant mes pas. After having explained that, Marie could reply, mais monsieur, c'est de la mémoire, et voilà tout. Oh, dear sir, it's only your memories, and that's all that there is. Mais monsieur, c'est de la mémoire, et voilà tout. And Tonio would reply, attendez, vous n'êtes pas sobo, ah mais ça va, vous pouvez croire. So wait, I haven't finished, wait. These promises you have to believe. And Marie would reply, voyons, écoutons, et jugeons. So let's continue listening to what Antonio continues. Le beau pays de mon enfance, les amis que Dieu chérissait, pour vous, je le sens d'avance, sans peine je les quitterai. And so after saying, oh my dear friends, the country of me being a child, those friends that I really loved, for you, I would leave them without a second thought. And Marie, avec malice, says in the score, mais une telle indifférence, c'est bien coupable, sûrement. I don't know, but being so indifferent, you can't be so indifferent. Antonio would reply, et puis, sans fin de votre absence, ne pouvant vaincre le tourment, j'ai bravé jusque dans ces camps le coup d'une val ennemie, j'ai bravé dans ces camps le coup d'une val ennemie, ne pouvant vaincre le tourment de votre absence. So if you knew how much I have dared to follow you, to know where you are, even a bullet that I had to face from an enemy just to reach you out here. And Marie would reply, quand on aime les gens pour monsieur, le conserve son existence, entendez-vous, monsieur? But when we love people for them, monsieur, we always keep them in our minds. Do you understand, monsieur? Entendez-vous, monsieur? Of course, this monsieur has to be given the right intention by the soprano so that she's trying to make the tenor guilty. Do you understand, monsieur? And she would continue singing. De cette voix si tendre, non mon cœur en séjour ne sait pas se défendre, non car c'est de l'amour. De cette voix si tendre, non mon cœur en séjour ne sait pas se défendre, non car c'est de l'amour. And Tonio would reply in a very similar melody. À cette voix si tendre, non son cœur en séjour ne sait pas se défendre, de croire à mon amour. and then the two voices would join together in Je sais aussi tendre, encore non mon cœur, oh, sorry, non mon cœur en séjour, non son cœur, non son cœur en séjour, non pas ça se défendre, les croire mon amour. Then in this is exactly where usually there are cuts because there are repetitions. Then no 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 ta 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 ta. And of course there are ornaments right after that. Da la 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 la. At this point, I would like to insist with you that if you have the chance of listening to Sutherland's and Pavarotti's recording of this duet, you absolutely have to go and listen to it. The way they put their voices together, I think the ornaments by Sutherland are just good. The intentions by Pavarotti throughout the whole duet are just beyond anything else that I have ever heard before. But we're just halfway in the duet, and now the roles are going to exchange. Now the one who will be telling the story is going to be Marie, and the one who is going to be questioning their purposes is going to be the tenor, Tonio. So the duet continues now when they say, after Amor, Amor, Antonio says, vous voyez bien que je vous aime, mais j'aime seul. And Marie would say, je vous aime. And now the tenor would say, okay, let's see, let's hear, and let's judge. Voyons, écoutons, et jugeons. And this time now Marie is going to tell us, longtemps coquette, heureuse et vive, je riais d'un adorateur. Maintenant, mon âme pensive sent qu'il est un autre bonheur. J'aimais la guerre, je détestais nos ennemis, mais à présent je suis sincère. Pour l'amour, hélas, je frémis, et toujours plein de larmes, ranimant mes sangs de parfum d'une fleur. Je le sentais humide de vos larmes, la douce fleur, trésor rempli de charme. Depuis ce jour n'a pas quitté mon cœur, jugez vous-même. And so Marie has told us a story of how she was so much into war, of course, in if not a funny or at least not that dramatic way. Because remember, this is an opera comique, so being an opera comique, this is not the complete drama of war. So the regiment and the fights that they are having are somehow picturesque. They are not really the true drama of war. That's why she's in her narration telling us that how much she enjoyed being in the terms of war until that day when she felt conquered by this handsome man. So when she says, jugez vous-même, there is an ornament usual if you listen to that duet by Sutherland, and then we would have the voice of Pavarotti in the right way of saying Maria, je sais ta voix si tendre, de l'amour, ta-da-dan, ta-da-dan, ta-da-dan. And they would join their two voices now that the two narrations of each of them has been completed, and they will unite following the same melody. Again, I would like to insist that many people don't like it because they say Donizetti's melodies in this opera are way too simplistic. So, oui, je t'aime Marie et je t'aime toujours. Plutôt perdre la vie que perdre nos amours, nos amours, nos amours, nos amours. Plutôt perdre la vie, plutôt la vie que nos amours. Plutôt la vie que perdre nos amours, que nos amours. Porque los amor no que Of course, the singers will keep the note as high and as for as long as they can. But it is a very lovely duet. I'm sorry to be this repetitive, but I really think this is one of the nicest duets ever written for two light voices. And we have reached the point that I think, if you are familiar with the opera, this is the point where you're expecting, where Ricardo is going to talk about the hyper mega contra famous A mes amis, a mes amis. What's about this aria? Before I mention about this aria, I would like to say that it is known, and I think it is very unfair, that this lovely piece of music that is the La Vie du Régiment is only known only for the 9 high Cs that the tenor is to be singing. If you are familiar with the opera, you know that the high C for a tenor is a note that not all singers have, and provided that it is a very high note for a tenor. Of course, you know that light tenors can reach a D, means a note higher than the C, but let's say that the standard high C is not common to all tenors. And given that it is sung 9 times in the same aria, this is something that people just go crazy about. And this is where my comment is going to be very unpopular. I really don't like this aria. I think that it is an unnecessary display of... This is just fan service. For me, this is just fan service. Because even the melody written for the tenor is not lovely. Ta, 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 la, 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 la. Ta, ta, la, 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 la. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ra, 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 ta, 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 ra, 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 ta, ra, ra, ta, ra, ra, ta, ra, 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 ta, ra, ra, ta, ra, ra, ta, ra, 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 ra. Having a tenor singing that time that high C, all out of nowhere, I need to mention that this aria, A mes amis, is where, remember that Maria and Antonio are both have fallen in love for each other, so Antonio is asking for permission to their fathers. Remember that she has as many fathers as soldiers are in the regiment, so he's asking for permission to marry her, and of course they will not accept. That is the first part of the aria. Actually, when it says Monsieur son père, écoute-moi, écoute-moi. There is a number of singers who have been successful in singing this aria. Of course, we need to mention Luciano Pavarotti, who in fact became very famous because he could manage those 9 high Cs live. He can do it in recording, studio recording, of course, but live he managed to sing it. So Luciano Pavarotti is very well known for that. Of course, Maestro Araiza, Francisco Araiza, if you happen to know him, he lives currently in Germany and has been living in Europe, I think, for the past 40 years already. So Maestro Araiza manages that well. Of course, there is one of the greatest tenors of the history of opera. Of course, we're talking about Maestro Alfredo Kraus, who I think even after the age of 60 years, he could still sing the 9 high Cs that much younger tenors could not manage. So Maestro Alfredo Kraus, and I really think we should be recording a program on Maestro Kraus. Maestro Kraus, of course, and I think he has been the tenor who sang it in throughout his career the more number of times. So our recognition and loving memory to Maestro Alfredo Kraus. And also more recent, we have Juan Diego Flores, the Latin American tenor, who also was successful in singing it mainly in the early 2000s. And more recently, we have also Javier Camarena, the Mexican tenor, who has also been very successful in singing the high Cs. And even Bisando, he has even bised the aria. So if you add the 9 and maybe the repetition, he added the other 6. Camarena and Diego Flores would sing it 15 times in the same day, which is, of course, way too much. And moreover, that I say way is too much because I would like to insist that adding 9 high Cs to the aria really don't make it more beautiful, more lovable. People are just waiting for the ta 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 da 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 da, which is only circus, if you allow me the expression. So I acknowledge the fact that people like circus, and that's where I'd like to leave the comment on this Ames Ami aria. I would like to think that attending the opera just for an aria, just for the listening to a note, is being unfair to the complete performance, not only of the tenor but all the other singers and actors. It is unfair to judge it only on one aria. Moreover, that this is an aria that I don't particularly like. Okay, so that's the second thing that we hear from the great number by the tenor with this Ames amis, je vais marcher sur votre drapeau. Tan, taran, tan, 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 taran, taran, tan. What is going to happen next? La Marquise, which happens to be one of the most adorable roles of the whole opera. I really, really love the role of La Marquise. Usually it is a more parlato role. She's going to be her lines are to be spoken more than sung, but this demands a very good the voices of a contralto demands a very good actress, because she's somehow the bad role in the opera, but still is lovable, because to detest the bad guy is easy, but to love the bad girl is difficult. And this is what happens to me with La Marquise. I have heard a good number of recordings where La Marquise is so lovable that I forget about Tonio and Marie. If it is to be performed in French, and she knows French well, she plays with all the phrases so perfectly that it is so funny that one cannot keep laughing even when she wants to be cruel. And if it is changed into the target language of where you live, English, Spanish, Italian, and also the actress is very good, I swear that you will keep La Marquise in your mind forever. And we are talking about La Marquise because La Marquise somehow ends up showing off at there in the grounds of the regiment, and she will ask, because she discovers, or she says, that Marie is her niece. She's asking Marie to be taken to her castle where she will receive the education that these barbarians, the soldiers, have been unable to provide. So Marie will leave her lovely regiment with a short aria, Il faut partir, I must leave you. So the first act ends with Marie leaving le régiment. The act 2 is going to start with now Marie there getting bored, taking singing lessons from a boring teacher, a boring aunt, when she wants to go back to the regiment where everything was happiness. And so she will be delivered to a more convenient husband, because of course La Marquise will not allow, which now turns out to be her daughter, not her niece. The Marquise will not allow Marie to marry a poor soldier that is Tonio, of course. She will not allow that. But at the end, she will understand the heart of Marie when she enjoys, and that's why I was saying this is the Frenchest opera ever, because there is this episode, this music that is called Salut à la France. Salut à la France. Dun, dun, da, 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 dun. Dun, dun, da, 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 dun. Dun, dun, da, 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 dun. Salut à la France. Salut à la France. Da, da, la, 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 la. So at the same time that Marie has given her salutations to France, I would also like to give my salutations to France, even though I think La France is not one of the countries that follows this podcast, but maybe there is a Frenchie in another country that is actually listening to us. So along with the salutation by Marie in her Salut à la France, I would like to send also my warmest regards once again to people in France, to all the nice Frenchies that are all over the world. I have had the chance of meeting a good number of them. And with that salutation, we are closing today's program to insist only that this is one of the loveliest operas ever written. Really, 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 if you have the chance of watching it complete, I know that you will have a great time watching, paying the attention to the dialogues, the lovely melodies sung by Marie. Also, would like to invite you to write us an email, operawillofsinging@gmail.com, operawillofsinging@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and salut à la France. Dun, 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 dun.